welcome again to another Bitcoin meetup in VR. Thank you so much for showing up. This is meetup number 8. Yeah, this is the 8th time we've been doing this, so it's really awesome. And if you're kind of watching this, we're recording, the live stream is over there. You can say hello to the camera. And so if you're watching and you're not here with us, then you should know that you can join our Telegram group at VR Bitcoin. That's t.me/VR Bitcoin, and we'll tell you about the future events. So you should definitely join that. And well, before we start, I just want to kind of tell you to please not run around too much, because it's kind of distracting to, well, both to us and to the people watching. So here's Peter running around. So try to be over here where the chairs are, or if you want to, you can be on top behind the chairs. There's like a second level, you can stand there and watch too, but please don't run around, and definitely don't walk next to the stage because it might disturb some people. And there's Bitcoin Sith over there who's kind of flying. Please try to not fly. Just go back to ground level, because you might be disturbing people behind you. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Up to until now, we did mostly like presentations, and today we're trying like a different format. We're gonna try some kind of an sort of an interview. I'm gonna ask some questions. Maybe Peter will ask some questions, and yeah, it should be fun. So, well, I'm sure all of you know Peter McCormack. He's the host of What Bitcoin Did, the podcast, and also Defiance, which is a newer podcast, which is not just about Bitcoin, but more about, I guess, different people resisting, I guess, but you'll tell us more about that. And I guess before we start talking about Defiance and what Bitcoin did, maybe tell us how things are at the UK, Peter, for you and people around you.
Yeah, hi everyone. I hope you're all okay and keeping safe. Very strange times at the moment, I think, for everyone. Doesn't matter how old you are. I think everyone's really experiencing strange times at the moment. Today was really interesting. I went down to the supermarket because we were out of a number of things, basics, and this was the first time where they have been controlling the entry into the supermarket. So how many people can go in, how many at a time, keeping the distance. When you went in, the staff had masks on, and everything was really somber. It was quiet. Everyone looked nervous. That's the first time it's felt like that. Every other time it's felt like just do your shopping. So there's that. I think I also spoke to my friend this morning. He works at the Northwich Hospital, the one that announced the first emergency. He's an ICU doctor, and I'm going to be speaking to him again tonight. He explained what it's like for him on the front lines with this, and it is as scary and frightening as you think. And he said it was very strange because it crept up on them one day. They suddenly had a lot of people in, and then the next day they couldn't move the people, and then suddenly people were just dying in front of them. And he said you can't be prepared for it. People are going in knowing they might die. So there's that as well. Yeah, it's very strange times. It's trying not to be too sad and nervous, but at the same time accepting we're in very peculiar, strange times right now. And I think the UK now is at that point whereby the numbers are getting serious. Yesterday it was 180, today it's 250 or whatever. Like they're going up and up and up.
Fast,
people
right?
realize, yeah, it goes once it starts, it goes fast, and I think people are starting to realize people aren't really worried too much about their jobs right now. Now that might be just because of my people I mix with, my friends, or maybe I'm in a middle class community and not, understanding maybe different communities. But even on Facebook, I'm not seeing people worry too much about that right now. I'm sure it will come, but I think reality is really setting right now, and that's where we are, dude.
Yeah. Is there like an enforced quarantine right now, or is it kind of voluntary?
So the rules are that you can only go out if it's to get food, medicine, if you're a key worker, and to exercise. And they say once a day. They can't enforce that, obviously, but it's once a day. And so most people are respecting that. And on the first couple of days, people were mixing in groups. Now they're not. The police are patrolling the park where I live constantly, trying to stop people. So it's very soft at the moment. My expectation is what will happen over the next couple of days is if the numbers accelerate to 300, 400, 500 people a day dying, they will start putting even more tougher restrictions in. But obviously, we're dealing with a lag. So these are the restrictions that if you believe in restrictions, you would have wanted a while ago. Yeah, most people are kind of respecting of it. There is still, I think, a problem in London. But yeah, I mean, most people are respecting it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess before, or maybe as this whole coronavirus thing started, you started working on the Defiance film series.
Yes, that's true, yeah.
Which is kind of somewhat related to Bitcoin, but it's not just about Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So when I started, yeah, sorry, you were going to ask a question.
Yeah, just tell us what is it?
Well, so I started Defiance so I could just do non-Bitcoin shows, so I could make shows about things that aren't to do with Bitcoin, just things that are interested me, other subjects. And then in doing Defiance and traveling around in the interviews, I realized that it would have been really good to have had a film camera going to some of the places I've been to. Because with a film camera, you can tell a lot more of the story. And so I took a film camera out to South America and just started filming some stuff. And I've really struggled. Say with Defiance, my Facebook friends are a very good measure for the interest, and just no one cares about the podcast. You know, the odd show, so we'll grab someone, but I put a video up, and over 100 people liked it, and suddenly there's an interest. So what I've realized is that whilst the Bitcoin stuff works very well as a podcast, the Defiance stuff works very well as film. So I've done 2 films. I've got the 3rd one coming out next week, and the 4th one the week after that, and then I'm out of content because I'm stuck at home, unable to make any, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. So I think you had 2 Defiance films so far, and the second one was about Venezuela. And in one part, you meet a few cryptocurrency miners in Venezuela, and you ask them about how they use Bitcoin and do they use Bitcoin. And actually, so if it's okay with you, I'm going to show like a short clip from the second Defiance. Let's do it.
This is so fucking cool.
I'm not sure. Can you hear the audio, Peter?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Can you quickly show me a heart if you're seeing the video, because I see a lot of sad faces? Is it still playing for you, Peter?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay. I cut it out because it looks like some people can see it. So I'm sorry for that. But we're trying. It's a reckless VR meetup, so that's how reckless things go. But so for those of you who didn't see it, basically there was a miner that Peter met in Venezuela, and Peter asked him about do you use Bitcoin, because people talk about Bitcoin in Venezuela all the time. So do you use Bitcoin for other than just mining and as as an income? And basically said, like, not really, right?
Yes.
People don't use it as much for remittances as we would imagine, and so on. So yeah, go ahead.
So some of it's common sense, and some of it's that reality. So it is being used. To say it's not being used is not true. It's definitely being used. But getting into the numbers is quite difficult. But I think if you start with what's common sense, so we went out into this. So one of the weird things about Venezuela, what you have to understand is there's East and West Caracas are very different. If you go into East Caracas, you've got McDonald's, you've got beer posters, jeans, and that is the area that's essentially controlled by Guaido. So that's very much like any cosmopolitan city. You get out of that and you get into West Caracas or into the slums, and it's not. You don't see any of that. You see propaganda everywhere, posters of Maduro or slogans about Venezuela, or writings about Chavez, and it's a very, very different experience. And outside of that, most people are living on less than $5 a month, which is $5. I mean, you spend that at Starbucks in the morning. It's fuck all. So, common sense tells you that Bitcoin is no good here, because even if they wanted Bitcoin, and even if they did one transaction a month, that could be 10%, 5%, 10% of their salary, which they're not going to do. Secondly, there isn't universal acceptance. Thirdly, there's certain parts of Venezuela that don't have constant electricity. Fourthly, there's the education. There's so many good arguments against it. But for those living in East Caracas, if you're wealthy, yeah, it makes sense, because you've got enough money to buy it, you hold in Bitcoin, every week you transfer out the Bolivar you need, and that makes sense because there's 10% inflation each week. But that's for the very, very small, middle and upper class. There is some remittance. I don't know how much. So to say there's no use, it would be wrong. And to say, but there is a definite use case, but it's for the people who you're talking about percentages. You're talking about the small percentage of people who can afford to use it, and then within them that percentage who know how to use it, and then the percentage who can be bothered. So it is a small number, but yeah.
Right. So why do you think it is that we hear so much about Bitcoin being used in Venezuela? Well, the truth is that sure, it is being used, but not nearly as much as people seem to claim.
Because I think Bitcoiners are excited and opportunists, and we see one sometimes put a tweet. We see Tony Hawk write a tweet about Bitcoin, and everyone's like, "Right, Tony Hawk, come on my podcast, Tony Hawk. What about this?" And like everyone just loses their shit. Any chance that anyone to be using Bitcoin, we go at them, and I mean, I was part of it beforehand. Before I went to Venezuela, I was like, "Oh, what a great opportunity!" And then you get there, and they're like, "Okay, the reality is slightly different." So I just think it's. I don't think. Okay, I'm going to say a broad statement here because I can't speak for everyone, and I think some people are, some people aren't. But I don't. I think one of the blind spots a lot of Bitcoiners have is real life, real people, how real people do things and make decisions. I think we're so far down the rabbit hole, we don't understand what it's like for other people. Therefore, we expect them to make decisions about Bitcoin usage that we would make 2 years after being down the rabbit hole. We expect them to make that decision now. We expect to go to Venezuela and say, "Hey, yeah, you've got hyperinflation. You should use this thing called Bitcoin, which is a deflation currency, which there's only 21." You know what? It takes too long for people to pick it up, and I think our expectations are too high. And one of the things that conversely is very interesting about that is I started doing these Bitcoin around the world shows where I just look at specific places, on El Salvador, Syria. They're my worst performing shows in terms of download every single time. Yet these are the real use cases. These are the ones. This is where I went to El Salvador, and there's people living in mud huts. They've got Bitcoin on their phone, and nobody's thought about their security of backups because they're not in a New York apartment where they can hide a billfold on. They're in a mud hut, and no one's thought about that. This is where I spoke to the guy from Syria, where he's helping refugees take money across Europe as they migrate across Europe. Again, a lot of the use cases for these people haven't really been thought about. So I think there's more hope and expectation with not enough thought behind it.
So you're saying these are the people Bitcoin is for. So in what way? Like how are they going to use Bitcoin? Let's say things were better, right? What is Bitcoin for these people? What is Bitcoin for you? What do you use it for?
I think it's whatever you want to use it for. That's a great thing, right? I mean, what do I use it for? I'm a speculator like everyone in here. We all
Right.
hope that Bitcoin will grow and our wealth and that will grow. I speculate. I use it as a defense against events like now, although it's not performed how we expected, but still, that's why I did, and maybe one day it will. And I think our logic about why you should own Bitcoin now is true. I don't think it's played out because of a number of factors. Leverage traders. I think there's a lot of correlation with the markets, but I think our logic is absolutely right. So I do it for that. I get paid by some people in Bitcoin because it's easier. I buy shit that I'm not allowed to buy with Bitcoin. I think for every single person, you can find a number of use cases for Bitcoin that suit you, and I think that's the coolest thing about it. So whether you're a refugee working your way across Europe and you want to take some wealth with you, or just some guy in I don't know, Las Vegas who wants to buy cocaine, it doesn't matter. There's a use case for everyone, and you just find out what yours is. I'm sure everyone here has got use cases for it that's different. Maybe they're getting paid with it. Maybe they're buying stuff online with it. So the other day when I was talking, this is an interesting point. So just one of the things I'm saying is that I don't always treat my show like I'm here to be a Bitcoin cheerleader. I want to challenge people, right? And I always want to. I think it's good to challenge. I think it's good to really throw. Like one of the node thing was a challenge, not just a cheerlead, right? And so this one of the part of my world I've been wrestling with, that's been turned upside down through this thing, is saying, oh, hold on. Am I 100% convinced that a world with no state it would be better in this one scenario right now? Is in this scenario, can the state coordinate things that a free market can't? I don't know, but I'm really, really challenging myself with that, right? I'm really challenging myself with that. And so I don't even know where I was going with that. Where did I start with that? So the point I was trying to make is that I think it's for all of us to figure it out ourselves. We'll all just figure out what Bitcoin is for us. And you can be a statist, or you can be a anarcho-capitalist. You could be someone in Syria or someone in New York. It doesn't matter where you are. You can do what the fuck you want with it.
Right. So, but how does someone like Venezuela could use Bitcoin if we make it easier, or
Bitcoin, Venezuela don't need Bitcoin. What they need is a removal of a dictator. It is they're right now they're ruled by like a narco-terrorist dictator. There's no doubt about this. Anyone who argues against it is either stupid or a propagandist. He has committed human rights abuses across the country. He is controlling paramilitaries, which are using slaves within gold mines. People have been eating out of the rubbish. Yes, don't trust Guaido. Yes, be suspicious of the Americans. But I tell you what, the Americans there right now would be a much better situation. People are dying in this country, but the problem is he controls the guns. So he controls the guns, he controls the country, and he is stopping any form of democratic change. Venezuela does not need Bitcoin. It needs democracy more than anything else right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe Bitcoin is for individuals, right?
Yeah.
And not for societies. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it is. But there's use cases, right? What are the use cases? Censorship resistance is a use case. Hedge against inflation is a use case. Speculation. All the use cases exist. It's just every country will be different. If you go to China, it might be a little bit more on the censorship resistance. If you go to Argentina, because twice they've got another, what is it, La Corralita they had, where all their savings were stolen. That's potentially coming again. So for them, it's seizure resistance. For someone in Venezuela, it's a hedge against hyperinflation. We've got all these different use cases. Just each country and each individual might have a separate use case that suits them. But the use case for somebody in you people from all different parts of the world, but the use case for somebody in the Western world is going to be very different from somebody in the developing world. India is going to be different. El Salvador is going to be different. Chile is going to be different. All these places are very, very different.
Yeah, I agree. So okay. So let's say someone found their own way or their own need to use Bitcoin, and you mentioned before how the full node thing was to challenge yourself when you said that it's really difficult to set up. Did you eventually make it to set up a full node?
Yeah, so I've got 3 full nodes set up now. I've got a nodal, a cluster, and I've got a core, like one on my laptop. But I think that one I've kind of made redundant now because I don't need 3 versions. But I stand by the node thing, and the reason I stand by it is that if there's a need for people to run a node, then it needs to be a lot easier because the majority of people are just going to look at that and go, nah. It's hard, and like I don't put myself in this world with ease. I always consider myself where I'm in my world with all my friends down the pub, right? Everyone in here is convinced and converted. We're talking about, so when I was in Vegas for Tone's event, someone talked about mass adoption. And what I said is that we already have mass awareness. Wherever I go in the world and people say, what do you do? I say, I've got a Bitcoin podcast. They don't say, what's Bitcoin? Everyone's fucking heard of Bitcoin now, right? We have mass awareness, but we haven't moved people from awareness to adoption very well. And despite it pissing people off, despite everyone fucking hating me and losing their shit with me, I'm telling you right now, just even getting people to think about buying it and why they should buy it is a huge leap. To get that next leap for a node, I'm sorry, the node is for the super, like those who've gone super down the rabbit hole, or the nerds, like the geeks, the computer people. For everyone else, it's just not there. It needs to be abstracted away.
Well, maybe those people just don't need Bitcoin yet. Maybe they don't have the need for it, so they don't need it. So they obviously don't have the need for a full node, right? They obviously wouldn't go through setting up and running a full node because they're just, they just bought it, they put it in their Coinbase account, they're not planning to ever use it again. But I mean, I guess most people, maybe that shouldn't be a controversial thing to say, that probably most people in the world don't need Bitcoin right now, or at least don't think they do. So that's like pretty obvious, right? So for those people, obviously they're not going to jump through the hoops of running a node, and there are hoops, there are definitely hoops, because they don't need it, right? I can tell them about the magical box that looks cool, but if they don't know why they need it, they're not going to do it. And they have to deeply understand how Bitcoin works to even realize that maybe they should use it, right?
Yeah, I think the trade-off I think that the step from hardware wallet to node, I don't think the trade-offs are obvious enough. The benefits are obvious enough to why they should do it and the amount of work involved. Like the Casa is really easy to do, I know that, but that was considered expensive. And also, even at $200-300, how much Bitcoin have you got to bought for that to be worth it? Have you got to have $1,000? No, it's not worth it at $1,000. Is it at $10,000? Then maybe it's worth it. You're talking about percentages here. So I just don't. I think it's really hard to communicate the benefits of a node to individuals when a lot of people are being told about the benefits of a hardware wallet. So what is the increase in benefit that I get? And I just think that's a very hard thing to communicate.
Well, it definitely is difficult to communicate. I think that I usually find that it's difficult to communicate when, the practical way of people starting to use Bitcoin is just someone tells them about Bitcoin. They tell them, oh, the value is about to shoot up. So they sign up to Coinbase and buy it and then forget about it. That's like the practical way that a lot of people hear about Bitcoin. And for those people, you can begin to explain what the full node is for because they literally couldn't care less. But for people who actually use it for, I don't know, if you want to make private transactions, for example, then you should really want to have a full node and use that to receive transactions.
But even getting to private transactions is really hard. The
sure, it's very hard.
The steps you have to go through for full privacy, it's just too much. And you can one tiny little mistake reveal your transactions to everyone else. I think a fully self-sovereign, perfect privacy Bitcoin user is a very, very niche Bitcoiner right now because it's just too much. I think some
For
people
sure,
just
yeah.
I can't be bothered.
For sure.
I think it's too much.
I mean, most people, for sure, yeah. Yeah, that's for sure the case. I mean, I don't even think, I don't even know if we need to convert them, right? I don't know if we need to convince anyone. I would imagine that if someone needs it, then they would go through what it takes. That's not to say that the process can't be made easier. It can and probably should be, but if you need it hard enough, if you want it not for virtue points and not to just say, hey, I'm private, I'm doing it right. If you do it because you need to, then I guess you'll jump through the hoops.
Yeah, and the other thing is
Like if you like to spend on it, right?
yeah, but what's more important? Is it this private censorship resistant money, or is it taking down the central banks? Because if it's taking down the central banks, you just want to get more people using Bitcoin, just using it. You just want more people in that world. So I see them as kind of two separate objectives. You can have this private, amazing form of money that a bunch of people are using to buy things secretly from each other. And that's really cool, but if you want a global money that takes down the central banks, you just need more people using it. So it has to be a lot easier.
Right. Right. So what do we do?
I don't know. I guess I've been shouted at too many times, so moaning about this. I just think patience is one thing. It's just patience. This is something unique. I think this next year will be very interesting. It could be a very big year for Bitcoin. I don't want to be an opportunist about it because this is such an awful time with everything that's happening. But this could be a big year for Bitcoin. This could be one that where it's the time where you turn around to people and say, look, maybe it's just worth putting $100 in or $1,000 in. Just this is the time where we might see a hyperpopulationary event. We're certainly going to see some currencies collapse around the world. The US dollar will probably be fine, but some of the weaker currencies could possibly collapse. I think this could be Bitcoin's year in some way.
I kind of hope not, but it could be.
Well, yeah, it's a tough one. I'm not such a Bitcoiner where I want the number go up to at any cost. I think some people are. I think some people genuinely would like to see the world burn and that number go up. I don't, but at the same time, it is when you're giving out advice right now, it's prudent to think about the responsibility of what you're spending money on. I interviewed Rao Powell. He said 4 things. He said, what are the 4 things he said? Have cash, but physical cash. Make sure you got some out of the bank. I don't know if people have done that, but there is a risk of a run on the banks. So it's worth having some physical cash in your house. What was going on here? The second thing he said is hold secure, what's it called? Assets like gold and Bitcoin. Hold scarce assets.
Hard assets.
Thirdly, and physical gold as well. Thirdly, is to cut your spend, and fourthly, to hustle. Everyone needs to hustle a bit more now because times might get tough. Right. So it isn't wrong to advise people to hold a bit more Bitcoin right now. I just don't want the world to burn for it.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I can work with that.
It just said my headset's running out of battery, so I should plug myself in. Give me one, carry on that. Plug myself in at the same time. If I look like
sure. So you can show me some emojis for now. I hope everyone's having a good time. Yeah, you're back?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry.
Good thing you noticed that. It's good.
Hold on. Carry on. Trying to find the entry.
You look like you broke your neck.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find where I'm thinking.
I mean, people watching this might be concerned about your health. Okay, here you are.
I'm plugged in.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's good you noticed that because otherwise it would just disappeared.
How long do you get?
And how long does the battery last?
Yeah, from warning.
think it's usually like 2 hours for me. From the wall, you can just go on forever.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm back.
Okay, so you're with us.
I'm with it.
Yeah. So look, we talked about Bitcoin, but I cannot, I can't let you go without talking about shitcoins too. So that's what I do. So you actually you get a lot of, I would even say hate sometimes from shitcoiners. You have like those a lot of parody accounts. There's an Ethereum parody account that the Ethereum community really likes you, and I guess you went on Richard Hart's podcast and called him or called his project a scam. So you have your run-ins with shitcoins for sure. So I guess my question is why do you do it? Why fight shitcoins? And I know it's funny coming from me, but I'm still asking it.
Probably for the same reason for you. It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Just because sometimes it's fun. It is just fun. Like Ryan Adams, the ETH guy.
Yeah.
Did he ask you about your allocation?
Bitcoin Did he ask me about my Ethereum allocation? Yeah. Well, I usually say that I'm short ETH, so.
Yeah. So, well, he asked me. He's doing some research piece about if you had $100, how much would you put into Bitcoin or ETH, just as a research piece,
right?
And as a Google Doc. So I put minus 10 ETH, 110 Bitcoin, just to try and make the point. And I mean, Richard Hart is a scammer, so I just called him what he is. I'm not going to debate him. He's a really good debater. He's not an honest debater. He's not an ethical debater. He isn't based. He just raises his voice and silences people and changes the subject. That's not a good debater. That's an unethical debater. But he's effective with it. So I just called him what he was. He's a fucking liar and a scammer, and go fuck himself when anyone else thinks of him. And also, I don't know. I started doing it less recently. I'll be honest. Like I left all the Ripple guys alone, and I'd rather do it based on fact now. Like the Dash guys, I'd say the Dash guys recently, because what they're saying about in Venezuela, they're just fucking lying. I just don't know. I'm tired of that fight. You can't win it.
There's definitely a point to be made that it's a waste of time, right? I
well, yes and no. But what you're doing with Ethereum, especially with your group, your Telegram group, is actually you're doing a proper job. You're basing it on fact, and you're technically tearing it apart, and that's really good, and that's really interesting. And I can't do that, so it's a bit pointless just going humans fucking shitcoin, and I just don't do it.
Well, it's still fun. It's still fun either way. Yeah. Justin Sun though is different.
I'm actually fun.
Yeah. Too bad he's not here. Maybe he is. You never know. Maybe one of you is Justin Sun. There's no way to know.
It might be something.
Could be. So do you think Bitcoiners have anything to learn from shitcoins or shitcoiners?
Marketing.
Or is it completely useless? Marketing.
No, marketing.
But who would do marketing for Bitcoin?
Well, I do.
That's true.
My shows. I mean, we all do. I mean, word of mouth is marketing. So that's marketing. Doing a podcast is marketing. Any form of promotion is marketing. We can all do that. Shitcoins are better at marketing. They're much better. But also they're better because they usually centralize the marketing, centralized around some kind of leadership. I think one of the problems I think with Bitcoin also is that I don't know. Sometimes I think we're like some people are a little bit too underground and too like fuck the state and burn it all down. And it's not a message that resonates with other people. And most people don't want to eat steaks every day and lift weight and shout at vegans.
Well, they should.
And claim everything is false. And most people actually believe global warming is caused by humans is real. Most people believe that they want help from the government with coronavirus. That's the reality, and you can't bridge that gap with people just by yelling at them. It doesn't work. They're just not going to listen to you. So I think sometimes that there's a disconnect between those most hardcore Bitcoiners and people in the real world, and the message and the way you I personally think Bitcoin's got a bit of an image problem. It's almost like, oh fucking hell, so the Bitcoiners came after me. The atmospheric scientist which I interviewed, who from Texas Tech University, she was just laughed about it. She wouldn't take it seriously. And I think there's some fucking lunatics like Safety is fucking crazy. I mean, I love him he's a Liverpool fan, but
Maybe he's here,
some of
though.
the stuff, maybe if he probably has me blocked. He's got me blocked in real life. But it also, I think there's a lot of bullshit that's spouted out there, and it's unrealistic, and it gets co-opted as this kind of identity around Bitcoin. And when I look back at early Bitcoin, I wasn't here, but it's a very different world. And the message was very different. And now it's just like this angry, fuck the state, fuck everyone, and eat state. And I don't know. It's just,
Well, I guess as you said before, we have a lot of people using Bitcoin for their own needs. So there's this one type of Bitcoiners who maybe eats meat, and there's another. There are a lot of vegan Bitcoiners too. I'm sure there are vegans here right now. So there are a lot of them. There are a lot of
there's a
types
loud
of Bitcoiners.
voice.
I guess on Twitter, but we also only hear like a very specific. Both of us, we're in a very specific group. And we're not on Weibo, right? We're not on the Chinese Twitter. We don't know what's going on there. We're not on a lot of Telegram groups. We're not on a lot of IRC chats, whatever. We're like in this small
That's true. That's a fair point.
bubble.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
But yeah, I mean, probably most people hearing about Bitcoin don't know about the carnivore culture, right? That's probably pretty sideline and niche. Maybe. I mean, I'm doing it. I don't see why anyone would eat anything that's not a steak, but if you want to, I'm okay with it. I'm not gonna give you a hard time for
I tried it.
A cake.
I tried it. Did you not just find it really boring? Steak and water.
It does get boring. Yeah, it does get boring.
Yeah. I want a cappuccino and some Pringles.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's why I'm at
So look, I think with that, we can take like a couple of questions from the audience. So let's see. 1 second.
So cool.
So the way we're going to do that. What's that?
Have you done a Mexican wave yet?
Yeah. So the way we're going to do that, everyone's going to have a raise hand button appearing on the bottom right of their screen right now, and you can click that, and I'll let you ask. So let's start with Bill. So Bill, first show us an emoji so we can see where you are, and then start speaking.
I'm up in the back on the balcony over here.
Yeah.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, everybody. Hey, we were talking a little bit, or you were talking a little bit about the point that this whole room is sort of a self-selected room. We're already nerdy and already agree that Bitcoin's great. And then, following that up, as people want to learn about Bitcoin, they ultimately need to join Twitter, which I fucking hate, right? Summing up consensus in 240 characters sucks. Do you see more thought leaders within the community sort of making those steps towards more traditional publications? I would love to believe that one day I'll see a Forbes article about Bitcoin that's even barely accurate.
Oh yeah. No, see, the problem with mainstream media is that we're all hypercritical because there's so much to learn. With Bitcoin, there's so much to fucking learn. It takes years, and you're still learning. So to have high expectations of the mainstream media to get an article accurate, I think we're asking a lot. Plus, their interest is number go up, number go down. So that's a really difficult thing. It's just a really hard thing to learn. And even I did a beginner's guide and ended up making 17 shows. It's just really hard. The one thing I would say is I would advise everyone in here to talk to people who don't have Bitcoin and know nothing about it. Just try to explain it to them. Just see what they say, and I think you'll find your own blind spots very quickly about why people should care, how they get involved, because I think we have a lot of blind spots. Did I answer your question there?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, he's muted, but yeah. So thanks, Bill, and we're gonna move to JC.
Hey, let me
JC,
see if I'm
just show
unmuted.
us
All
where
right,
you
cool.
are.
Right here,
Hey,
let me
man.
turn on some
Yeah.
emojis for people. Hello. All right, so I tried to avoid Twitter for a long time. I finally felt the ultimate pull in like 2019. I mean, I had my Twitter account since 2010, or maybe 2009, but I never used it. Finally, I got onto Bitcoin Twitter, and I don't think I do. I think Udi is right. I think even though it feels like it's the whole world, it's not. But I do think that the level of toxicity there among certain groups is an asset to Bitcoin. Even though yes, it hurts. Like if you happen to get on Twitter and then get attacked by 200 trolls, that sucks. But but I do think there's even a lot of Bitcoiners that don't like me, and even though like all I do every day is Bitcoin, and then you too, even though all you do all day is Bitcoin. But I do think it's an asset because it's one of the things that makes Bitcoin harder to change. It's kind of like a little one of the many little armies that keep Bitcoin kind of ossified, and so for that I appreciate it. I just wanted to chime in there.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously agreed. That's why I'm toxic all the time. So I agree with that.
Yeah, I get back and forth. I agree with it sometimes. Then I think in other areas it's just dumb. This kind of like certain Bitcoin people thinking they're now all-knowing experts in every single field of knowledge there is and weighing in on everything, and it's just I don't know. I mean, do what the fuck they want. I just think they're coming across as morons, and overall, I don't think it's a good look for Bitcoin.
Well, we don't have to agree about everything, Peter. It's okay.
No, we don't. I'm not talking about either.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go with Alex now. Alex, go ahead. Just show us an emoji so we can see where you are.
I'm
Alex?
right over. Yeah. Hello, I'm over here. Second,
Yep.
bro.
Yep.
Hey,
Hello.
Peter. Yeah, I've been following you for a long time, and at the beginning, I must have been one of the people who were bashing you on Twitter. And well, I'm sorry for that now because you did evolve, and that was your journey.
Thank
and it's
you.
really cool to see how your journey evolved, and you definitely learned a lot of stuff. I'll give you that. So that's pretty
Appreciate
cool. But my question now is like, so let's say tomorrow you have to stop doing the podcast for whatever reason. Would you still be as involved? Would you still go to the journey of building a node or whatever, or trying to learn those things if you wouldn't be doing the podcast?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Are you asking Node specifically, or are you saying what I
No,
still be involved
something
in
like the
Bitcoin?
node. Something like the node. Like, would you still go through, forcing yourself to learn new stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I'd possibly be a case of I would put my Bitcoin away and just go and work. So I tend to work very hard on whatever I'm working on. So if I wasn't doing the podcast, I'd be doing something else, maybe filmmaking, and I would probably just throw everything I've got into that. So I couldn't guarantee whether I would be diving that deep into Bitcoin enough to want to run a node, just because I'd be so busy. I honestly don't know. Yeah, I just don't know. Probably not. I would take still a lot of interest in Bitcoin, but most likely my majority of my attention would be focused on whatever it is I'm doing instead. That's a very honest answer.
Cool. Cheers.
Cool. Thanks. So let's go with Sam.
Hey.
Sam.
Right
Hey,
here.
Sam.
Yep.
Hey,
Good evening.
you've talked a lot about how to be a more effective promoter of Bitcoin, and I'm curious, what is your personal motivation to do that? Is it altruism because you think Bitcoin is going to be benefiting a lot of people in the future and you just want to make sure people are in on that? Is it speculation for yourself to make sure that you increase your own value? Like, why do you think it's important to be a better promoter for Bitcoin yourself?
Really, really good question. Okay. So, it's not the number go up for me. I actually don't check the price much anymore. The only time I see it is when other people talk about it. And that's been a really, really healthy thing to do. I think a couple of reasons. Firstly, there are some very, very good, important use cases. Very, very interesting, important use cases. So explaining Bitcoin to people in Argentina is really, really easy because they've had their money wiped out by the government so many times. I think that's a really important and good place to be a promoter of Bitcoin. So yeah, if it was just personal, I wouldn't make these Bitcoin around the world shows because they don't do very well. They're not going to make much money for me. I do them because that's where the use cases are of specific people who can really benefit from it. So I do it because I think people can really, it is part altruistic. The second part is that it's just my job. It's part of what I do, right? I have the podcast, so I'm a capitalist at the same time. I want my podcast to do well, so I want to promote it. So, and I believe in it. So all those things kind of converge at the same time: the business, the belief, and the use for other people. So they're all converging into doing it. Yeah, I would say that's why.
Gotcha. Thanks.
I love it, Sam. Thanks. That was a great question. I think we're gonna do two more, if that's okay, Steve. Steve, why did I call you Steve?
Pete.
Can I call you Peter?
As many as you want.
Is that okay?
Yeah, fine.
I'll call you Steve from now on.
Steve's cool.
Steve McCormack. So yeah, so let's go with Dylan. Dylan, you're on.
Hey, yeah, that's
Dylan?
me.
Yep.
Yeah, can you see me?
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Hey.
I done.
Hey. So earlier on, you were talking a little bit about people who were trekking across Europe, refugees. You were talking about people who are living in huts, didn't have a place that they could store something like a Bitfunnel. And I was wondering if you had any insights into some of the things that we could do from like a product perspective to try and help improve the experience for those kind of people. Because obviously, like in Venezuela, in Argentina, they're some of the people who are going to get some of the best benefits. But from a product perspective, it doesn't seem like necessarily we have something which suits them very well. So maybe you got some insight, maybe you got some feedback from those people about what would help them to be able to use Bitcoin effectively. Yeah,
that's a good question. That's one I can give a better answer to. So I think there's a couple of things that have really stood out to me. So across, say, South America, there are two important currencies that people need outside of their own currency. So if you're in Argentina and you're a Bitcoiner, yes, you want Bitcoin, but you also want dollar. And I've always personally felt I would really love a wallet which has essentially three wallets. It's Bitcoin, Lightning, dollar, and I can just move between those really easily. So when I was in El Salvador, these people were getting paid in sats, but the volatility was a bit of a nightmare for them. Also, there isn't a culture of saving there, and the guy I was dealing with, he's trying to teach them to save, but they were just spending. But he said, well, we talked about the fact that if the wallet was Bitcoin and dollar, maybe they would leave 20% in Bitcoin, put the 80% of the dollar, and then just spend the dollar amounts. So some kind of wallet that did that really well, it probably already exists, but that would be very interesting. I don't know the solution, but I think some form of key management solution which doesn't require a hardware device, which takes consideration for the fact that, so if you have something like a Casa 2 of 3, you know you can hide a device at your house, or maybe it's your mobile one at your office. You've got all those kind of options. These people don't. Their option is that their house, and it's a mud hut. And if someone knows they've got Bitcoin, they're running a risk. So I don't know if then, again, just putting it out there, but is some kind of semi-trusted key management solution whereby it's, I don't know, with a company like Blockstream holds one of the keys in terms of backups. Again, I don't know, I'm just putting it out there, but you're talking about people who live in a mud hut, anyone can break into, anyone can steal their phone. They're not like us where we can go, oh, I'm going to have one here and I'll hide one in my attic or in my dad's house. They're just in a mud fucking hut. And I think someone needs to think a key management solution for people like that. And I don't know what it is. But if they can't do a 2 of 3, is there some kind of trusted company or two trusted companies. I don't know. It's probably someone like Udi to have a real think about and perhaps debate the trade-offs between trustless and some kind of trusted solution for these people. Am I explaining what the problem is well enough?
Yeah, I understand. I mean, when you don't have like personal safety that you trust, it's really hard to keep your keys safe, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a difficult problem. Yeah.
And I worry these people, they've got these wallets and they've got some Bitcoin on it, and perhaps something happens over the next year and suddenly that Bitcoin they had, which was like $100, is suddenly worth 1,000 or 2,000. It's life-changing money for somebody like El Salvador or Bolivia or somewhere like that. But they've got nowhere backing up their private key, and if they lost their phone or lost their private key, they're kind of screwed. Now, you or I are used to having forgotten passwords and things like that. I don't know what the solution is for these people in these scenarios, but someone needs to, I would have thought, some kind of round table where people brainstorm some different solutions for people in these environments would be a good use of time.
Right. Well, thank you for the question, Dylan. And
Thanks for answering.
we'll take the last one from Calso. So go ahead. Just show us where you are.
Yeah, hey, Council here. I cannot hear you anymore, Udi. Maybe, I don't know if you blocked me. Peter, regarding this, what you just described, wouldn't they have the same issue with cash? It's here, the one with the hearts. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. The same problem,
Okay.
someone might rob them or steal their cash off them.
Yeah, right. Wouldn't they have the same issue when they have cash at their homes? I'm always wondering how it is in these countries, and also for myself, how to secure it. But if I were to now go to the ATM and pick up all my cash, I would have basically the same issue, maybe even worse. So I could remember my 24 words. Yeah.
No, you're totally right. They do have the same problem for cash, but most people, there's no saving culture. Yeah, especially in Venezuela, I saw that there. There's no savings culture in Venezuela at all. Therefore, people live in month to month, so it doesn't really matter. But with Bitcoin, if we're getting some people into Bitcoin, we're trying to get them into a savings culture, trying to teach them about saving. And because of that, there is a chance that they will have something that is worth protecting. Makes sense?
Cool, that's great. So, Peter, thank you so much for joining us for this. Where can people find like your new Defiance shows, films, or anything else?
Yeah, I mean, website is whatbitcoindid.com. If anyone had any questions and you want to ask, my emails are always open. It's hello@whatbitcoindid.com. Feel free to ask anything. Defiance is at defiance.news. Both films are made so far there. If there's a YouTube page you can subscribe to as well, Defiance TV. Just reach out if you've got any questions, suggestions, ideas, or you just want to bitch to me.
Cool.
This was awesome,
thanks. By the way. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's really a lot of fun.
So we'll have a big wave.
Just seeing everyone like that, it's really fun.
It's so cool. Loved it.
So look, guys. So if you guys enjoyed this, there's definitely more coming. So actually, tomorrow there's an event called Magic Internet Gathering, which is it's in VR, in Altspace VR, and it's sort of this competition on some Bitcoin games. So there are Bitcoin games made by startups like Zebedee and Thunder Games that you might have heard of, and they're having a competition tomorrow with players from Zebedee, from Thunder Games, from Bitcoin Magazine, I think, from Lightning Labs. So it's kind of cool, and they're gonna stream that competition on a screen, very much like this one. So if you want to join that, you can look at magicinternetgathering.com, and it's tomorrow at the same time that this event was. So feel free to join that. And next week, Not entirely sure about the time yet, probably starting 1 hour later than this event started. So next week on Saturday, we're going to have the Magical Crypto Friends here. That's Samson and Ricardo Spagni and Charlie Lee and Whale Panda. 4 of them are going to be here. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're interested in that, yeah, absolutely join the Telegram group. That's t.me/VRBitcoin, and we're going to announce